The disclosure process is heating up. Highly connected analyst Matthew Pines has prophesized that with the release of Lue Elizondo's upcoming book, Imminent, which is only 17 days away, major new developments will occur.
So we're in this position now where coming into the summer, there's going to be some major things happening.
Welcome to Anomalous August. In this video, we'll go into what these foretold major events will comprise of. Make no mistake about it. We've had similar prophecies before. The truth of the matter is that J. Christopher King said the following in March of 2023.
Yeah, it's an exciting time though. There are there are people that are going to be going public over the course of the next months. There are all sorts of wild situations, possibly in DC, possibly in New York, that are going to be coming up. And I think that 2023, like no BS, like I kind of hate it when people talk like this, but I really think that this is going to be the biggest paradigm shift year since 2017 for this field.
In less than 4 months from J. Christopher King's sentiment, highly credentialed UFO whistleblower David Grusch testified under oath before Congress. He was endorsed by former Colonel Karl Nell, and according to the debrief, also supported by Jonathan Gray, a generational officer of the United States intelligence community with top secret clearance. Reportedly, Gray currently works for the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, NASIC, where he focuses on the analysis of UAP. This raises the question, will 2024 be a bigger year for UFO transparency than even 2023? I'm eager to find out. I don't think I've ever seen more hype emerge for what's to come in the past 6 years since the December 16th, 2017 New York Times article that I'm seeing right now. If I was a UFO cynic, I would be so excited about this period because they are so certain that all of UFO history comprises of wishful thinking, misidentifications, LARPing, and mind virus. So all this hype that's been generating about what's to come in the next weeks, next months, the remainder of the year, should amount to nothing. I would imagine that even the most rabid cynic has to have limitations on how far a mind virus can go. Because one of their mantras regarding people that have come forward is it's always the same people over and over again, which in my opinion is not really true. I mean, Karl Nell came out of nowhere. He's not the usual suspects, and boy, is he credible. Look at his resume. It's pretty extraordinary. Same thing with David Grusch. David Grusch is not a usual suspect, nor is John Ratcliffe, former DNI John Ratcliffe for that matter, or James Clapper. So I think the quote-unquote usual suspects, it's always the same people mantra is not as persuasive as it seems. Nevertheless, we are being told that new people are going to come forward, really serious new people. So that would add to the pile of people that have already come forward, that have already claimed that the US government is not being forthright about UFOs and that they're obfuscating the topic.
So we're in this position now where coming into the summer, there's going to be some major things happening. So the objective essentially of the things that are going to happen the rest of this year is to get as close to the full package that's in the UAPDA passed, right? So that the next president will essentially preside over the nominations and then review the declassification and disclosure determinations of the review board. Only the president will have essentially the final veto, right, over those determinations. The review board has to provide like a UAP disclosure campaign plan, and there's all these restrictions on like what the agencies, if they say that we don't want this to be declassified, there have to be like specific reasons published. So there's a lot of stakes coming on like this bill that's going to be now reintroduced as part of the FY25 NDAA, and that will likely come to a similar sort of contention in conference committee later this year, probably November, December, where behind closed doors will be a debate about how much of this package will actually make it into law. Because the NDAA is one of those bills that always gets passed, right? And so this is the fight that's happening now. And so there's going to be a wave of public discourse that's going to start next month in August that is designed to generate such momentum to push the UAPDA across the line. So in particular, what's going to start this will be a book that's coming out by a gentleman named Lue Elizondo.
So Matthew Pines said the objective of the things that are going to happen, and he's referring to what's going to happen in the coming weeks and months, is to get as much of the UAP Disclosure Act passed as possible. That's essential in this conversation. Before I proceed with explaining this to you, I want to read a citation from one of Christopher Sharp's articles, because one of the most, if not the most essential component of the UAP Disclosure Act is the UAP Review Board, UAP Records Review Board. Let me read the excerpt so you have a very clear understanding of the UAP Records Review Board. If the act is passed, the president would appoint 9 impartial citizens with Senate consent to a newly established UAP Records Review Board. This board would oversee the collection, review, and public disclosure of UAP records and has the authority to examine materials, solicit testimonies, and gather additional witnesses and whistleblowers. The establishment of the review board would prevent government agencies and individuals accused of involvement with illegal UAP programs from investigating and exonerating themselves. This board would eliminate their direct influence over the government's current UAP office, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, a practice multiple sources have reported to Liberation Times. The president would also make final decisions regarding the disclosure or postponement of records related to UAP, provide written justifications for any postponements, and ensure the periodic review and declassification of postponed records. So, what has been hyped up to happen in the remainder of 2024, according to Matthew Pines, in many respects has a singular objective, and that is to get the UAP Disclosure Act 2.0 passed as intact as possible. Because as we know, the previous attempt to get it passed was unsuccessful. It was mostly gutted. Now, why is this important? Well, part of why this is important is because Lue Elizondo said in September of 2021 that he had a very specific reason for writing his book. And the word that comes to mind when I think about why he wrote his book and what it's leading to is orchestration. I think there's a very strong measure of orchestration, how Lue Elizondo wrote his book, what he involved in his book, the timing of his documentary that's going to come out, the timing of James Fox's documentary, the program that's going to come out, and other progressions that are going to occur. I perceive that as much as possible, Lue Elizondo has determined to get his book out at a specific time and is orchestrating to the best of his capacity other outcomes after his book comes out. For what? For what? To help get the UAP Disclosure Act 2.0 passed. Because let's face it, if the UAP Disclosure Act 2.0 gets passed intact, that will be disclosure. If there's anything actually to see here, it will force transparency. The legislation is so forceful and independent that there's really no easy way or even potentially hard way for the government to continue to obfuscate this topic with all of that legislation in place. I'm going to play for you a clip from Vinny Adams' podcast Disclosure Team, where he interviewed Lue Elizondo in September of 2021. Here, Lue Elizondo explains why he wrote his book.
What I will say, and I won't go into any more detail than this, is that the purpose of the book is going to be very, very apparent when it comes out. And I think people who know me are going to be like, that clever guy. People who don't know me are going to probably wind up having to eat some of their words. It's funny to watch social media and people go way out on a limb and start making speculation, wild speculation. It's a money grab, it's pay for play. Okay, well, think that if you want to. But when the book comes out and people really they read it and go, holy crap, this makes sense. Now we understand why you did the way you did it when you did it. Will they apologize? No. They'll just, they'll go hide in the little deep dark corners of Twitterverse and maybe change their name or something.
So he's coming up with his tell-all book, basically called Imminent. Good title. In August. Then there's going to be 2 documentaries coming out with people that no one's heard of yet that are going to make pretty eye-opening claims, and that those people will have the credentials to back those claims up.
Can you say what those claims are?
I mean, basically that everything David Grusch said in testimony is true.
So
right?
that they've retrieved craft.
Yes.
And that they've found like biological.
Yeah.
Beings.
Essentially.
So if David Grusch was not telling the truth, was lying, was LARPing, was the recipient of some kind of mind virus, you would think that the U.S. government would not struggle to put it to rest, to destroy him, essentially. Do you put that past the U.S. government? Do you put it past the U.S. government to do everything within their disposal to make Grusch look like an absolute liar if he's actually lying? You don't think the U.S. government is capable of that? And yet, that hasn't happened, has it? They have not been able to discredit David Grusch. Has anyone come out of the government or any of the U.S. agencies saying David Grusch is full of it? No, that hasn't happened. And yet, here we have Matthew Pines stating that 2 documentaries are going to come out post Lue Elizondo's book, Imminent, with people that nobody's heard of yet, with the credentials to back up claims that they're going to make that David Grusch's testimony is accurate. Well, that's interesting. And as we already laid out, this should help the UAP Disclosure Act 2.0 to get passed intact. In the following clip, the host asks Matthew Pines, the people that are coming forward to back up David Grusch's testimony, are they going to reveal anything beyond what David Grusch has shared?
I think they want to do it.
And is there anything new that like Grusch didn't say that he's going to reveal?
So this is all about, again, Grusch. I don't think the job is to say anything new. It's to get more senior people to say basically the same thing.
Okay, so take it more seriously.
So David Grusch was sort of the first door opener to establish and into the discourse this concept of retrieved craft and biological materials. That was like what? And you saw the people in Congress being like, what are you talking about?
So this to me gets to the heart of what we're dealing with and what we've been dealing with for going on 7 years now, since the December 16th, 2017 New York Times article came out. Disclosure is indeed a process. It has to be a process. There's way too much momentum keeping this secret. Too many laws, too much classification. It's not going to come out of a vacuum. You're not going to just wake up one morning and the U.S. government is going to declassify reams of files about UFO programs and data they've collected on this enigma, because the secrecy has become so overwhelmingly institutionalized within the U.S. government. So to me, what Matthew Pines is getting at is how the disclosure process happens in phases. I mean, in October of 2017, Lue Elizondo came onto the scene. And then in June of 2023, David Grusch came onto the scene. Other people are going to continue to come onto the scene. More officials are going to come forward. And eventually, this is going to coalesce into new legislation. At this point, the UAP Disclosure Act 2.0, which will make it impossible, as far as I'm concerned, for the U.S. government to continue to obfuscate and lie to the public about this topic. So indeed, disclosure is a process. What's not a process is UFO confirmation. UFO confirmation is when we finally get proof that we're dealing with beyond next generation technology of unknown origin. Now, of course, you can use the word disclosure within the context of UFO confirmation, but often disclosure points to the process and not the event.
But the objective this year, just to make it more practical, is to have more and more senior people come out, essentially saying that, ratifying those core statements, right? Not going any further than that, and then trying to hold the line to then trigger a formal process. Because what the folks pushing for disclosure don't want is what they call catastrophic disclosure, which is the sort of uncontrolled spilling of all the stuff associated with this topic in a way that would cause social...
yeah, but we want to see shit. Let's be honest. We want to see a spaceship, or we want to see a little green man. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just somebody says something.
But that's the objective. The objective isn't to convince everyone at the same time. In fact, that's the exact opposite objective. Because if everyone all of a sudden went from thinking this isn't true to thinking it is true, well, you could have disruptive social effects.
Yeah.
So the objective is to increase
Of course.
the number of people that think this is true by a few percentage points every few months.
But we gradually get there.
And that's the point. That's the point of having this 7-year project where you establish sort of a rolling consensus on these things.
Now, Matthew Pines cited a 7-year project. I'm not sure what he's referencing. I recollect that Tom DeLonge said that there's a 7-year plan. Maybe it was even Robert Bigelow, to get this out into the public, presumably starting in late 2017 with the New York Times article. However, I also recall that former Colonel Karl Nell said that it's to 2030, although I don't think he meant like disclosure would happen in 2030, but that would be like when it all comes out. It's a little bit confusing. I would love to get some clarity on that from Matthew Pines, but either way, I really find it interesting where he says the objective is not to get everyone to believe simultaneously, but to have a higher percentage of people believe every month. And that makes sense. If you were the government and you wanted to right a wrong where you go from covering something up and lying to the public to transitioning into telling the truth and no longer covering it up, and revealing to the public something so overwhelmingly complex and ambiguous as non-human intelligence engaging our planet, engaging humanity. You probably don't know their agenda, and you don't know what they're up to. How do you go about that? Something so ambiguous, so nuanced like that. You probably wouldn't just do it in one fell swoop. It would probably be something you would do over time. And that seems to be what we're witnessing, doesn't it? Which isn't to suggest that it's all planned out. I don't think that's the case. I don't think this is all orchestrated, but there might be some degree of orchestration in terms of people trying to push this out and overcome intransigence and those that don't want it to come out. There might be some intentionality in how it comes out, to the degree it comes out. In the following clip, Matthew Pines describes how the legacy programs perceive that there's no way to disclose essentially our place in the universe, that we're being engaged by non-human intelligence without compromising their interests or national security.
Of course, the folks that have been managing those alleged legacy programs have no interest in making that easy, right? They have every interest in basically saying, these are so conjoined, you cannot disclose really anything about this basic NHI fact of, and without fundamentally compromising our national strategic advantage from maybe having inspired certain systems as a result.
Is declassification of our place in the universe a righteous cause or not? I mean, that's really what this comes down to. There are people in the U.S. government who don't want this to come out. Part of it is because of how complicated it would be for the U.S. government. There's laws that have been broken, which could lead to the U.S. government getting sued by corporations. For example, the U.S. government allegedly has given some of the recovered craft to some corporations and not others, which creates a disadvantage for the companies that didn't get them, and that's against the law, and then the U.S. government could get sued for untold amounts of money. So there are complications. It's not just national security and not wanting adversaries to know what the U.S. government is up to. There are other complexities involved. And so a lot of people in the U.S. government who are involved in the secrecy or have been read into the secrecy in the reality of the situation, they just don't want to have to deal with it because of the complexity and because of all of the repercussions that would inevitably occur. But at the end of the day, it's such an obvious righteous cause because it is not within the purview of the U.S. government to classify the truth about reality any more than it's in the purview of the U.S. government to classify that there's a certain amount of whale species or that the earth is a sphere and not flat or that the size of the moon. Right? These are scientific truths that are obviously not in the purview of the U.S. government to cover up or to classify, but they've done that with UFOs. They absolutely have, in my opinion. And I find it so funny when skeptics, their whole preoccupation is, well, this is a mind virus, and what's happening is we're spreading fantasies and we're promoting a lack of critical thinking. Well, wouldn't this be the most profound irony ever if all that people like Lue Elizondo and David Grusch and Chris Mellon were trying to do were to stop a cover-up about scientific truths, right? So that we would be less ignorant of our reality and, frankly, better critical thinkers. Is there a greater irony than that? I don't think so. In the following clip, this is from December 13th, 2023. Tucker Carlson had David Grusch on. David Grusch, this is his objective, to heal from the cover-up, to heal from the lies, and to allow humanity to have a better basic understanding of the reality they live in. We live in.
It's time to reconcile this. We need to heal from this. We need to disclose the basics, the fact that we're not alone. We've recovered material and we've recovered the occupants. And beyond that, the president can decide what should be disclosed. It's above my pay grade, but the basics should be acknowledged. And I think it's a more ontologically shocking, but also uniting thing in an era of divisiveness. I think we need this.
I agree with that.
So I think that David Grusch is pushing for balance, a balance that maybe the legacy people involved in the legacy programs, as Matthew Pines pointed out, don't desire, because they might believe or do believe that you can't do both. You can't maintain national security adequately and also reveal that we're being visited by, or we're being engaged, because we don't know where it comes from. We're being engaged by non-human intelligence and we're recovering bodies and craft. But to me, it's clear you have to find a balance. You can't justify keeping all 8 billion human beings in the dark about operations that are recovering craft and bodies. And that's the degree, the scientific degree to which we know we're not alone. We've actually We actually have attained their bodies. We've actually attained their craft. And in the following clip, Matthew Pines goes into the fear that some members of Congress have about the fallout of not disclosing, that it could lead to strategic surprise.
But the Senate has said in the bill, like, what's motivating this is basically the risk of technological surprise from our adversaries, right? Like, we shouldn't assume maybe we're the only ones that have such programs. And as we talked about with the competition with China, is on, explicitly capturing the strategic advantage from science and technology. And if, we've been compartmenting these things so tightly to keep this, secret bottled up, we have maybe 50, 100 people total working on some of this stuff in different domains, you better hope you got the right people. Otherwise, there might not make a whole lot of progress. Whereas China might feel like, we need to play massive catch up, and we don't necessarily care as much about, when you're playing catch up, your risk reward versus disclosure, and you're also just, an authoritarian society where, if you look sideways, you're going to get taken to the gulag, right? So maybe they feel better that they can actually put maybe 10,000 people into those reverse engineering programs. And if they've got that, that would put a whole lot of anxiety behind the Gang of Eight, being like, wait a second, maybe it made sense to keep this a secret during, the previous era, but now that maybe China is potentially getting this, potentially catching up, well, the game has changed, and the balance between disclosure and secrecy is different.
It's long been told that one of the reasons the legacy programs have not made much progress, as it's been reported, in understanding how these technologies work is because of the sheer compartmentalization of these programs. And I know that Dr. Eric Davis has said that the price of keeping all this secret is multiple times more than the actual price of researching the technologies. So it does seem like the secrecy is really bad economically, and it's bad for making breakthroughs in how these technologies work, because they want to keep it secret. They want the United States, the United States public not to know about it. So they have to take extraordinary caution when they employ these efforts that are so detrimental to making progress. And as Matthew Pines pointed out, if China and Russia have these same kind of programs, which it seems like they clearly do, because I know that David Grusch said there's adversaries who have these programs, but he wasn't able to say, but he said, take a guess and you'll probably be right. Well, obviously that's China and Russia. And it's long been told that China and Russia also have crash recovery programs. They're retrieving craft and bodies just like the United States, covertly, which is something that former Colonel Karl Nell backed David Grusch up on, that there is a sub-rosa Cold War between adversaries to be the first to back engineer these technologies, presumably because we're not the only ones retrieving these technologies. But as Matthew Pine said, China and Russia have a much more authoritarian government. So for them to put many more people into these programs to understand these technologies is easier for them to do, because they can enforce the secrecy in ways that the United States can't. And that presumably is leading to the U.S. having far fewer people working in these programs. And I know it's utterly bizarre, right? The cover-up's bizarre, the phenomena is bizarre, the dynamics are bizarre. I mean, it's just endless bizarreness. But I think it's true. I think there's a lot of truth to all of this.
That's like the objective this year, sort of get this bill passed. That's probably like the sole thing. And I think there's recognition of the pro-disclosure folks that have firsthand knowledge of these programs and want this to come out is coming forward in a controlled way. So I expect senior people to come out.
Matthew Pines reiterates that he expects senior people to come out and to back up David Grusch to help get the UAP Disclosure Act 2.0 passed, to make it much more difficult for anyone in the Congress to stand in the way of this bill getting passed as intact as possible. And that's what we're going to see in the coming weeks and months, according to Matthew Pines.
So it hasn't quite sunk in yet. And so I think this is kind of this, it's got to hit a few times. And then, so Lue Elizondo's book, in fact, I read the first few chapters already. They haven't, the full book hasn't come out. It's going to be a wild book, I'll tell you that.
What's it called?
It's called Imminent.
Oh, the Imminent book. Okay.
Yeah. And so, but then that's going to trigger these documentaries, other people. And then I believe the coup de grace will be coming sometime this year with someone that everyone would recognize if they watch, if they paid attention to the news, you would know this person. So
there's been a lot of discussion on who the individual is that Matthew Pines is referencing when he said he believes there's going to be a coup de grace sometime this year. Let's review what coup de grace means. It means a final blow or action that decisively ends a situation. It is often used metaphorically to describe an event or action that brings a situation to a conclusion. So this is apparently going to be a very well-known person, and potentially this person coming forward will shift the conversation. And Matthew Pines has said that officials, plural, are going to come forward to back up David Grusch, but this specific individual he's referencing is not necessarily part of that group. This is an individual, the coup de grace, and he believes it's going to happen this year. Some people have speculated that who Matthew Pines is citing is James Robert Clapper Jr., who is a retired lieutenant general in the United States Air Force and former director of national intelligence. And as you recall, former DNI John Ratcliffe spoke candidly about the UFO mystery, contradicting the United States government's official narrative on it. Clapper has held several key positions within the United States intelligence community. He served as director of the Defense Intelligence Agency from 1992 to 1995. So this is someone who, what a resume. Well, good luck finding greater credibility than that. He was on CNN back in May of 2021, and he discussed the UFO issue. It's really interesting. Let's play the clip.
It does sound like it is, something that we haven't seen before, this type of transparency around this topic.
Yes, and I'm not sure why that is. The only reason for classification would be if there's some sensitive method that data relating to so-called UFOs was collected. But other than that, I don't know why we haven't been more transparent about it in the past, and I'm part of that crime, I guess. And my former capacities were, I didn't insist on more transparency with respect to this issue.
It's clear to me from this clip that James Clapper is acknowledging the overclassification of UAP. In fact, he said, I don't know why we haven't been more transparent about it in the past, and I'm part of that crime, I guess. So this is part of why some people think it will be James Clapper. I wouldn't even begin to guess who it's going to be, but it's I hope that after this video, you see all the hype that's going on about Lue Elizondo's book coming out, and that leading to other revelations and officials coming forward, documentaries with important people, and just an array of events that are not going to discredit the UFO issue, but is going to actually challenge the narrative the U.S. government has given for so long on the UFO issue. And this is going to be very exciting. And maybe it will blow up in quote-unquote UFO believers' faces, or maybe it will actually make the cynics look a little bit overzealous in their position. Maybe they shouldn't be so sure of themselves. Today, Lue Elizondo cited me in a tweet, and of course I thought it would be relevant to share. He wrote, at PostDisclosure, at Fettuccine Split. Hey guys, I just want to say to both of you that I thoroughly enjoy the daily countdown, and as excited as you are, I'm 10 times more. Thanks guys for doing all you do. I started a countdown to Lue Elizondo's book on Twitter where I make videos for it. 50 on day 51, which God help me. When I did the first countdown, I did not intend to do it every single day, but someone underneath the tweet where I did the countdown in a video said something like, "Oh, you're going to do this every day, aren't you?" And then I kind of thought, okay, maybe I should try. And then I started doing every day. And a lot of times I'll just like play the drum or play the flute or both, or I'll talk about an issue or I'll make a joke. It just depends. A lot of times though, I just generically, if you will, say there's so many days to go. And in fact, I will share with you the most recent countdown I did. And if you want to see my countdown videos, then you're just going to have to follow me on Twitter. At some point though, I might start uploading them all to Instagram. Maybe when I get down to day 10, but Instagram doesn't seem to like to go beyond a minute. However, a lot of my countdowns are below a minute, and maybe I'll make sure they're all below a minute when I get to day 10. Here's the latest one. Just 16. 16 more days until Lue Elizondo's book, Imminent, gets released. The last thing I want to say is that while I do think there's some orchestration, I'm not saying that everything is necessarily orchestrated. In other words, I know James Fox's movie, The Program, is going to publish soon after Lue Elizondo's book. Maybe that has nothing to do with orchestration. However, on the other hand, I think clearly other things that are going to occur are orchestrated to happen after Lue Elizondo's book. I just want to put that caveat in there because sometimes it's hard to give you a precisely explained nuance from my perception. And with that, it's great to get a video up. This is going to be great, guys. I mean, seriously. And look, I'm going to give my obligatory message that I often give is that, you know what? I could be completely wrong about UFOs. You know, I probably say this more than anyone in the field, and I'm not bragging about it. I'm not saying I'm superior because I do that, but it's just part of my philosophy. I acknowledge the fallibility of my perception. And just because when I look at the totality of UFO history, I look at how the U.S. government has dealt with this topic, and that leads me to believe there's a high probability that, yes, UFOs are being covered up and some of them originate from non-human intelligence. That's what I think. That's my judgment, but I could be wrong, of course. And in fact, I'm with Matthew Pines. When people ask me at this point what my probability is that I think I'm correct, it's 95%, which leaves a good chunk, 5%, to be wrong, and maybe I am wrong, but we'll see. The remainder of 2024 will go a long way in clearing up some of that. I'm not saying it's going to be definitive at all. We need the round Schumer legislation to get passed if we're going to get anywhere to a definitive answer, but it could be incredibly credible and compelling. And it could make the probability that there is a cover-up and that we're not alone higher, depending upon how the rest of the 2024 goes, or it can make it lower. So it's going to be exciting, and I'm going to cover it. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, I would so appreciate it if you did that for me. And if you'd like to support this channel, you could check out my merch shop. You can give me a one-time donation. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member, or you could just slap a like on this bad boy, and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.